What if losing your virginity isn't just a personal milestone, but something connected to your biology, your temperament, and even your genes? For thousands of years, virginity has been treated as a moral label, a measure of purity, a marker of character. But science asks a very different question. Does virginity actually have a biological role? And could the timing of losing it reveal something deeper about how we're wired? The answers come from anatomy, genetics, and a discovery that surprised researchers themselves. Why virginity became such a big deal? Virginity has fascinated and controlled human behavior for millennia, yet few people can clearly explain why it exists at all. Technically, virginity simply means a lack of sexual experience, but in reality, almost all cultural attention has focused on female virginity. That focus exists for one reason. There is a visible anatomical structure that people believed could prove it, and that belief created centuries of misunderstanding. What the hymen really is. The hymen is not a seal, it is not a barrier, and it is not proof of sexual history. It's a thin layer of mucus and connective tissue located between the external and internal genital structures. The hymen begins forming before birth, around the 7th week of fetal development, and finishes forming by about the 5th month. Crucially, a healthy hymen always has an opening, sometimes one, sometimes several. Without it, menstrual blood could not leave the body, and surgery would be required. And this is where the myths begin to fall apart. Why losing virginity doesn't always mean tearing. Hymens vary widely from person to person, in thickness, in shape, in elasticity. Some stretch instead of tearing, even after multiple sexual encounters. Bleeding during first intercourse is not guaranteed. It depends on blood vessel placement, not morality or experience. Pregnancy is even possible with an intact hymen. This lack of understanding turned a normal anatomical variation into a source of shame, pressure, and suffering for millions of women, which raises a deeper question. If the biology is so inconsistent, why does the hymen exist at all? But anatomy is only part of the story. The most unexpected insight came from genetics. A genetic discovery that changed the conversation. In 2016, an international team of scientists from the UK, Iceland, and the United States, led by geneticist John Perry, conducted a large-scale genetic study. They analyzed the genomes of 125,000 people between the ages of 40 and 70. What they found surprised them. Researchers identified 38 genes linked to the age at which people began their sexual lives. And those genes weren't random. Many of the identified genes were associated with earlier puberty, higher impulsivity, greater irritability, and a tendency toward risk-taking behavior. People with these traits, on average, started having sex earlier. This doesn't mean genes make decisions for us, but they can influence temperament, self-control, and how strongly we respond to impulses. Virginity, it turns out, isn't just a cultural concept. It's also connected to biology and personality. Losing virginity is an important moment in many lives, but it is not a measure of worth, not a test of morality, and not a simple choice detached from biology. It sits at the intersection of anatomy, hormones, genetics, and social expectations. A thin piece of connective tissue was never meant to define a human being. And once again, science reminds us of something crucial. Reality is more complex than our myths. But that complexity is exactly what makes it worth understanding. And that's baby science for you.